We're also privileged to have with us this morning the Chief Executive Officer and founder of TAF Africa and convener Disabilities Inclusion in Nigeria. Let's please welcome Jake Ekpele with a round of applause. We also have, representing the Federal Road Safety Commission, we have the Co-Commander Federal Operations of the Federal Road Safety Commission, Zubairu Mato. We'd like to welcome you. Thank you very much for coming. We've got quite a lot of civil society organizations as well as NGOs, and those of you who are in the vanguard of ensuring that we've got good reforms in place, electoral reforms in place. I'm going to be reeling out your names a bit later, but just before I reel out your names, it is also very pertinent that we set the tone and the ground rules for our engagement today. First is that every presenter that's going to be given the opportunity of coming here to make a presentation will be allotted 5 minutes only. And it is part of our ground rule that every person who is invited here must restrict himself or herself to the 5 minutes allotted. I'll be having my stopwatch set for every individual that's going to be coming here to speak. And we must respect the allotted time, please. This is applicable to all. And then, of course, in the course of your presentations, we are very civil and very understanding people. We've got respect for constituted authorities and the rest of it. So we must avoid the use of abusive or profane language or languages, as the case may be. So please, I'm just reeling out these ground rules so that in case you're found wanting, we'll have a way of approaching it. But I'd like to plead with us that we all maintain absolute respect, mutual respect for each other, and of course, mutual respect for every other person's opinion. And we must limit presentations to the matter before us, and that is don't introduce any new topic other than what we're here for. We all know why we're here this morning. And if you can leave your home as early as you left your home, either to beat the traffic jam, to be able to get to the Abuja Continental hotels, then it means you are very passionate and you are committed to the cause that we're gathered here for this morning. And then, just as I mentioned, please, we must also ensure that we have mutual respect and respect for people's opinion. So whatever is said against your own opinion, please do not take it personal. Just hold on to it, and you can engage this person in a private conversation, a very civil manner. We'll appreciate if that happens in the course of our conversations here today. And more so, I'd like that we all be as professional as can be. We appreciate your presence, and we believe that at the end of this exercise, we'll be able to beat our chest to say we made valuable contributions to the electoral reforms and the electoral sector in Nigeria. That is my hope. That is my prayer for all of us this morning. And I'd like to welcome all of you on behalf of the organizers of this event. Very quickly, in no particular order, I recognize the presence of Honorable Yakubu Adamu, Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Electoral Matters. We'd like that we welcome him with a round of applause as well. Please, can we give him a round of applause? Thank you very much for joining us. We also have Ms. Laolu Olaumi, the Programs Manager, European Union. We'd like to welcome you as a member of the delegation from the European Union. Can we please give a round of applause? If there's any of us that is seated, either in your own capacity or in a representative capacity, and you must be recognized. Please do not hesitate to put pen to paper and send your names to any of our colleagues and those on hand as ushers to bring your names to us so we can recognize you appropriately. Once again, the town hall meeting will commence in no distant time, but we're also expecting the leadership of the National Assembly, whose committees have brought all of us here together, and with great support from the European Union and Jaeger Africa. We'd like to thank you so very, very immensely. But let me warmly recognize the presence of immediate past chairman, Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Atahiru Jega. I'd like that we welcome him with a resounding applause, please. And he has a place here on the front row. And I'm sure that some of our youths that are seated on the front row might just want to vacate a seat for him. He's not just here in his capacity as an immediate past chairman of INEC, he's also here standing in for a great institute as the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, where he is a lecturer and a member of the Academic Advisory Board. I'd like that we please give him a round of applause one more time. I'd also like to mention that aside Professor Tahiru Jega, we also have the privilege of having to also standing for the Director General of the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, Professor Edoba Omorige, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Can we please welcome him? He's the Director of Legislative Support Services of the Institute. A warm round of applause for him, please. Prof, you're welcome. Also representing the Inspector General of Police at this auspicious occasion, we have the Commissioner of Police, Basil Idegu, CP, Electoral Planning and Monitoring of the Nigerian Police, standing in for the Inspector General of Police. We'd like to welcome him. Please, a warm round of applause for him as well. Thank you so much. The Senior Road Safety Officer that I mentioned earlier on is also not here on his own. He's also standing in for the Corps Marshal of the Federal Road Safety Commission. I would like to welcome you again, Mr. Zubairu Mato. Thank you very much for coming. Other members of the House of Representatives that are here with us this morning, we have Honorable Salisu Yusuf Majigiri, Member House of Representatives representing Mashi Dutse Federal Constituency of Katsina State. We'd like to welcome you. Please, a warm round of applause for him. Thank you. We'll keep the recognitions at bay until we get the nod to constitute the head table, and then we'll hit the ground running with the program of events in earnest. But of course, in order to constitute the head table, let me first of all invite the men whose committees of the National Assembly have come together to organize this town hall meeting. I'd like to invite to his set the Chairman, Senate Committee on Electoral Matters, very distinguished Senator Sharafuddin Abiodun Ali. Can we please invite you over to your seat on this side of the divide? Please, a warm round of applause for him. Professor Atahiru Jega can then move forward to the front row to take over his seat, sir. Please give him another round of applause. And then the next person I'm inviting over very quickly is the Chairman, House Committee on Electoral Matters. Let's please welcome Honorable Prince Adebayo Balogun to please take his seat. This applause is not encouraging. We can do better with that round of applause. The honorable member seated at the back from Katsina can also move forward and sit next to Professor Tahiru Jega. In the interim, but we have 3 more seats for honorable members, and so I'm going to invite the Vice Chairman of the Committee on Electoral Matters, House of Representatives, to please take his seat on the head table. Can we please invite him over, please, with a round of applause as well. I also invite Right Honorable Fred Agbedi to also join members of the head table. Please, Prince, join us over here, sir. Do we have any senators at the moment? Would also like to invite the Executive Director, Yaga Africa. Executive Director, Yaga Africa. He's not coming on the head table? You don't want him to be? All right, fine. I'm taking instructions from you, except I'm directed otherwise. Honorable, you can also come to the head table. Please, let's put our hands together for him as well as he moves over to the head table. Let me also recognize the presence of the Director General, IbroSoft International Development Foundation, Ibrahim Abdullahi. We welcome you. Thank you very much for finding time to be with us this morning. And I've just been told very reliably that the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, CON, is being represented here by Mrs. Mary Grace Obeide. Can we please welcome her to the head table with a round of applause? Rep of the SGF. Okay. She coming to the head table? Yes. I know. Okay. This person coming on the head table. This James representative. Okay. 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 If we have members of the National Assembly that are here, we'll just give her a front row here. SGF's representative, Mrs. Mary Obeide. Thank you. We're going to get these events started because we're going to be having a live telecast of our deliberations here on national television stations. We'll be able to let you in on which of the stations in a bit. But just before then, I'd like that we please settle down. If you don't have chairs, more chairs have been provided. We would appreciate if everyone else in this hall is seated. Please grab a chair from amongst those ones there and quickly take your seats so we can get this event underway. Because we're going to be going on live on television any moment from now. And in the light of that, may I kindly request that we please rise for the national anthem for the commencement of this program. Do we have it coming from the public address system? Whilst we remain standing, we take the second stanza of the national anthem as our prayer, as we pray collectively. O God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide our leaders right, help our youth the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow, and living just and true. Great lofty heights attain, to build a nation where peace and justice reign. Amen and amen. Please be seated as we put your hands together for the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the National Assembly. I can hear that applause. The Senate Committee Chairman on Electoral Matters, Distinguished Senator Sharafuddin Abiodun Ali, and distinguished members of the Senate Committee on Electoral Matters that are here with us, the House Committee Chairman on Electoral Matters, Honorable Prince Adebayo Balogun, and all the Vice Chairman, as well as honorable members of the House of Representatives on Electoral Matters that are here with us. The Executive Director, IAGA Africa, Samson Itodo, representative of the European Union here, Director General, National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, Professor Bakr Suleiman, will be represented here by the Director, Legislative Services, and a Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Professor Edoba Omoregi. The immediate past Chairman, Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Atahiru Jega, representative of the Inspector General of Police, I beg your pardon, representative of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, representative of the Inspector General of Police and Federal Road Safety Corps, the ED and TAF Africa founder, Jake Ekpele, other members of civil society organizations here present, very distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I stand here this morning with pride to welcome all of you to the Senate and House Committee on Electoral Matters Joint Committee Sensitization of Nigerians on this very town hall meeting that is about to take place. It is the Citizens Town Hall meeting, first of its kind in recent times, taking place here at the Ladikwali Hall, Abuja Continental Hotel. You'd recall upon the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly, they all made their resolve and commitment to assist in reviewing the electoral legal framework in a very timely manner. And in a very recent retreat organized by the Senate, the Nigerian Senate resolved to undertake reforms to the legal framework for elections to unbundle INEC to improve its efficiency and effectiveness in the preparation and conduct of elections. Other priorities that they set for themselves include, but not limited to these ones, removing the ambiguity in the electoral law to make electronic transmission of results mandatory, introducing early voting for eligible voters on election duty, diaspora voting, sanctions for failure to submit register of members to INEC, proscribe cross-carpeting for legislators and elected executives, and extending locus standi to tax-paying citizens to file cases against candidates for filing false information to INEC in party nominations documents, amongst many other discussions that were held. It is as a result of this commitment that IAGA Africa is today supporting very vigorously the Senate Committee and House Committee on Electoral Matters. And that's the crux of the matter, and that is why we're here. In order to get the conversation going, we will be yielding the floor at this point in time to the two committee chairmen on electoral matters of the Senate and the House of Representatives, respectively. First, to take the short, to give us his welcome remarks, will be the Senate Committee Chairman on Electoral Matters, distinguished Senator Sharafuddin Abiodun Ali. I'd like that you please join me in welcoming him to the podium with a very round of applause, as loud as you can keep it. Distinguished sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My colleague, the chairman of the House Committee on Electoral Matters, Honorable Prince Adiba Balogun, the Vice Chairman and other members of the National Assembly that are present, the representative of the Secretary to the Government of Federation, the representative of the Inspector General of Police, and that of the Corps Marshal. Professor Tairu Jega, immediate past chairman of INEC, the Executive Director of FIAG Africa, our friend Samson Stodo, and the Secretariat staff and other members, other civil society organizations that are here present, party chieftains, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The Senate Committee on Electoral Matters, in its meeting held in October 2023, promised the electorates and Nigerians that we will do all we can to make the electoral process in Nigeria incapably seamless, free, fair, and credible, while providing, protecting, and sustaining the independence of the election umpire, the Independent National Electoral Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, today, the National Assembly, in collaboration with FIAG Africa, has provided this very unusual but unique platform for Nigerians to contribute to the legislative process. It is important to mention here that this is just one in the series of public engagements which the National Assembly Joint Committee on Electoral Matters will be holding. For us in the Senate, we have already commenced the implementation of a pragmatic electoral reform work plan, which is centered on training and exposure to best applicable practice, consultations and collaborations, as well as working with meaningful timelines. And most important to us is the independence, welfare, and protection of the electoral institution and its staff. You will agree with me that the Ninth Assembly played their part with the successful passage of the Electoral Act 2022, which is the reason why we are able to conduct the 2023 elections and transit to the present administration. However, since the last election, there have been calls for a review of the electoral legal framework to lessen the excessive responsibilities and expectations placed on the electoral umpire, which has not been backed by the level of independence that's required to strengthen its capacity to perform. Political parties, candidates, and electorates also have their share of responsibility in the electoral process, responsibilities that must be moderated by law and quoted by a sense of civic responsibility. Today, we have invited all political parties, civil society organizations, representatives from corporate and professional bodies, stakeholders from government institutions, including security agencies, and others from the electoral administration and election space. Once again, our intention is to hear from you and get your input to a reform process that will be gradually carried out with the involvement of all stakeholders, including the Independent National Electoral Commission. And we are already in the process of putting together a technical working committee that will put all outcomes of our engagements and make recommendations to the Joint Committee. Permit me to appreciate participants who have already sent in hundreds of recommendations by mail in the last 2 weeks. Your suggestions are already being collated by our Secretariat. It will interest you that every submission named this gathering will be carefully considered and processed, which will form part of our data in the process of amending the Electoral Act. And also, if there are inputs which require constitutional amendments, the committee will see to it that such matters are referred to the Constitution Review Committee of the National Assembly. Lastly, I'd like to appreciate YAG Africa, members of the Joint Committee and staff of the Committee on Electoral Matters for their zeal and hard work to make this program a success. I wish all of us fruitful deliberations. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Senate Committee Chairman on Electoral Matters. Moving on very quickly, I'd like to invite to take the seat of the Speaker of the House of Representatives at this occasion. Would like to invite Honorable Dr. Patrick Umor. He is Chairman House Committee on Legislative Agenda and standing in for the Right Honorable Speaker. Can we please welcome him with a resounding applause? Just as he's making his way up here, let me also invite the Chairman House Committee on Disabilities, Honorable Bashir Dawodu, to please come over to the head table as well. There's a warm round of applause for him. Honorable Bashir, there are seats. Don't worry, just come over. Don't come over, just come. He has a seat at that far end, and then the representative of the Speaker will be sitting right there. So we thank you very much for joining us. Moving on very quickly, having introduced the representative of a speaker, I then want to invite for his own welcome remarks the Honorable House Committee Chairman on Electoral Matters, Honorable Prince Bayo Balogun. Please, a warm round of applause for him as well.
Chairman, Senate Committee on Electoral Matters, Senator Shafaruddin Ali, the Speaker, House of Reps, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, PhD, ably represented by Dr. Patrick Umor, the Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Legislative Matters, and all other honorable members here present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honor to be part of this Citizens Town Hall today on electoral reform to create a platform for a national discussion on the reform required for improving Nigeria's electoral process. This meeting intends to also facilitate the consultative process for identifying the ambiguity, complexity, and the inadequacy in the electoral legal framework, which includes the Constitution and the Electoral Act 2022. In doing this direct engagement with the citizens, we must also be able to highlight these reforms in order of priorities for the 10th National Assembly to implement. I want to appreciate the effort of the Joint Committee on Electoral Matters of the 9th National Assembly, and indeed the 9th National Assembly members as a whole for giving us the Electoral Act 2022. This act gave the BVN, which was the icebreaker in the 2023 general election. Our accreditation process, which before now had been one of the major challenges in the whole electoral process, was made almost seamless using the BVS machine. Today, we expect participants to come up with their memorandum, which will inspire intellectual debate needed for a perfect piece of legislation. I can gladly tell you that We have over 20 memorandum on issues ranging from unbundling the INEC, mode of appointment of the INEC chairman and commissioners, diaspora voting, election and election result management, electoral offenses prosecution, election litigation, election security, hate speech, vote buying, etc., etc. So as I welcome you to this epoch-making event, I want us to take full advantage of this opportunity facilitated by YAG Africa to kickstart a process that will lead to the emergence of an electoral act that will satisfy the yearnings of the majority of Nigerians. The President of the Senate, Mr. Speaker, ably represented, ladies and gentlemen, I once again welcome you all to this Citizens Town Hall. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much, the House Committee Chairman on Electoral Matters, Prince Bayo Balogun. The next Goodwill message, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, is going to be coming from the man whose organization has given very enormous and immense support to this program. I'm talking about the Executive Director, YAG Africa. Please join me in welcoming to the podium for his Goodwill message, Samson Itodo. Please, a warm round of applause for him, please.
Thank you very much. The chair of the Senate and House Committee on Electoral Matters, honorable members, representatives of different public institutions. Let me also recognize members of the civil society community, and more importantly, the citizens who are in this room. A very good morning to you. I'd like to pay special tribute to Professor Atayo Jega, who is one of our celebrated icons on the continent, but also seated beside him is one who was his chief technical advisor and later became a national commissioner at INEC, Professor Okechukwu Ibiano. But also seated, we have Professor Bolade Enyila, who is also the chief technical advisor to the current INEC chairman. Very welcome to you all. Let me start by commending the 10th National Assembly for prioritizing electoral reform in the legislative agenda that was recently launched, including the issues highlighted at the Senate committee retreat. I'd like to go on record on behalf of YAG Africa to commend the leadership of the Senate and the House Committee. And I say we are in this room because these two gentlemen did prioritize the need to engage with citizens, because this is the first major event that they are hosting. So please, they deserve a round of applause. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you very much for inviting us to partner with you on this journey. I'd also like to acknowledge the ones who have made this possible, the European Union delegation. This intervention and support to this process is made under the EU Support to Democratic Governance project, which seeks to deepen democracy in Nigeria. And so we thank the EU for this constant support to this process. Chairman, distinguished colleagues and participants, the 2022 Electoral Act is a representation of decent amount of work that went into the reform process prior to the 2023 elections. And that piece of legislation, we at YAG Africa believe, is one of the best piece of legislation that regulates the conduct of elections in Nigeria.
There are several good things about the 2022 Electoral Act. The fact that the electronic accreditation of voters using the BVAS was introduced by the Act, and we saw the impact that it made in the 2023 elections. The fact that the Act also revised the definition of overvoting. The Act reviewed timelines for the conduct of elections. The Act also guarantees some measure of financial independence for INEC. And so there's a considerable amount of work that have gone into that entire process. And we pay special tribute to the citizens, to the legislators who fought to get the 2022 Electoral Act passed. But like the two chairmen noted, there are some gaps in the Act because we've only operationalized the Act in the 2023 general elections and the off-cycle governorship elections. But Nigerians are asking, why is it that these incremental reforms have not led to attitudinal changes on the part of different actors within our political process? Nigerians are asking, the more the reforms, the more the attack on the institutional independence of institutions saddled with the responsibility of managing our electoral process. Nigerians are also asking, why is it that we have incremental reforms, but there is an erosion of public trust in the electoral process? Nigerians are asking, why is it that we have reforms year in, year out, but the more reforms, the more difficult it is to obtain electoral justice? Now, this question is being asked by Nigerians is not misplaced because Nigerians do care about their country and we care about our electoral process. And I think the presence of stakeholders in this room is a testament to the fact that Nigerians have not lost faith in this entire process. As we prepared for this town hall, a lot of people ask questions, why should we engage this process any further? And this is our response to you, that we have an existing constitutional order, and we believe that there are mechanisms within this constitutional order to self-correct and to reinvent. And supporting this town hall from us at Yiga Africa and our partners is a demonstration of our belief that we can reinvent our electoral process. And to do so, there are 5 key priorities that we put on the agenda. The first one is the need to unbundle INEC. As it stands, INEC needs to breathe. INEC is struggling to breathe because there are enormous responsibilities vested on the Electoral Commission. So the need for an Electoral Offenses Commission, the need for a political party regulatory and registration commission is critical. And Nigerians want an INEC that is unbundled. Secondly, is the independence of the Electoral Commission. Nigerians are demanding that the appointment process of national commissioners and resident electoral commissioners needs to be revised, because you can't have an electoral commission where the current legal framework allows, the appointment of certain partisan individuals to be appointed into INEC. And to rebuild public confidence in the electoral process, there's an urgent need to secure the independence of INEC by reviewing the appointment process. And there are reports of committees, there are reports from both local and international observers on how the commission should be constituted Thirdly, Nigerians are also demanding that the timelines for conducting or concluding election petitions needs to be reviewed, that all election petitions should be concluded before the swearing in. Nigerians are also requesting and demanding that there is need to make electronic transmission of results mandatory. Nigerians are also asking that diaspora voting, early voting for critical stakeholders in our electoral process, such as INEC officials, election observers, security agents, and all officials who are on election duty on election day should be able to cast their votes, including prisoners or inmates. We believe that the current approach adopted by the committee is a welcomed approach. It's good that we are starting early, but it is important that as we think about the issues to be reformed in our electoral process, the distinguished senator and the honorable member and all the representatives of the principal officers of the National Assembly, we hope that these reforms will lead to attitudinal changes on the part of our political class. We hope that these reforms will deepen the independence of our democratic institutions, but that these reforms would also protect the voting rights of citizens. And from us, we congratulate you on this initiative, and again, do pledge our continuous support. I want to once again thank you for the invitation to partner on this, and we wish us a successful town hall. Thank you very much.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, can we make that applause a lot louder than that for Yaga Africa? Thank you very much. We appreciate. At this point in time, we're going to be listening to the special remarks of the Speaker of the House of Representatives. And the Speaker, we've already told you, that is represented here by Honorable Dr. Moore. And so he's going to be coming and he'll be speaking on behalf of the Speaker of the House of Representatives. So may I kindly yield the floor to him as we welcome him to the microphone with a very big round of applause. Can we welcome the Speaker, House of Representatives, Right Honorable Abbas Tajuddin, PhD.
The Chairman, Senate Committee on Electoral Matters, Senator Ali, Chairman, House Committee on Electoral Matters, Honorable Prince Balogun, distinguished senators, members of the House of Representatives, Yaga Africa, as well as our worthy partners, our very own Professor Atahiru Jega, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure and a sense of duty that I stand before you today as we gather to deliberate on one of the most crucial aspects of our democratic process. Our electoral reforms, as we are gathered to discuss, has been put together by the National Assembly to provide a platform for constructive dialogue and engagement with citizens as we collectively seek to enhance the integrity and transparency of our electoral system. Electoral reforms are pivotal in ensuring that the voice of every citizen is heard and that their votes count. As we strive to strengthen our democracy, it's imperative that we address existing loopholes and challenges within our electoral process. There is no gainsaying the fact that credible elections are the bedrock of any democracy, and Nigeria stands the risk of reversing the gains of the last 2 decades if we do not fix our elections. This town hall presents an invaluable opportunity for us to listen to our perspectives, concerns, recommendations regarding our electoral reforms. I urge each and every one of you to actively participate in today's discussions, as your inputs will be very instrumental in shaping the future of our nation's electoral system. Your insights will guide us in formulating legislative measures that are reflective of the collective aspirations of the Nigerian people. The 10th House of Representatives is committed to championing legislative initiatives that promote fairness, transparency, and accountability in our electoral processes. Indeed, this much is contained and prioritized in our legislative agenda. I assure you that your voices will be heard within the hallowed chambers of the National Assembly as we work towards enacting further reforms that uphold the principles of democracy and safeguard the rights of every citizen. I extend my gratitude to the Senate Committee on INEC and the House Committee on Electoral Matters for their unwavering dedication to this cause, as well as all the citizens who have taken the time to participate in this town hall. Together, let us embark on this journey towards electoral reforms with a shared sense of purpose and determination. I wish all of us a very successful deliberation. Thank you, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
We've done well with that round of applause, but we could do better. We can do better. Can we please just do that one more time? Thank you very much. Please, I'd like to recognize the presence of Honorable Niyi Ido Iragbiji, Member House of Representatives, Honorable Tunde Oyetola, Member House of Representatives, and Chief Yakubu Balogun from Lagos State. Can we give all of them a round of applause? As I also recognize Ozigi Idris A, representing Nigerian Immigration Controller General at this point. Can we please welcome him with a round of applause? I thank you very much for coming. Moving on very quickly, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and standing by the already established protocol, we'd like to then, whilst we wait for the arrival of the President of the Senate, whose goodwill will be delivered a bit later, we want to go into the presentations and dialogue in order to fast-track our deliberations here. First, we'd like to yield the floor to TAF Foundation Africa. Please, let's welcome TAF Foundation. Jake Pele is in for him. And your 5 minutes starts now. And do me a favor, stand on the existing protocol so we'll make it faster. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Standing on the existing protocol, I'd like to identify and support what is going on here today, put together by my good friend Samson Itodo and his Yaga Africa. I would like to say on behalf of well over 31 million persons with disability across the country that this Sunday, the 3rd day of December, is set aside by United Nations as the International Day for Persons with Disability. Please add your voice to the advocacy to amplify the voice of persons with disability. That said, let me be very particular about what brought us here together. I came without a speech because I want to speak from my heart. Any electoral reform that is not inclusive will definitely give birth to a fraudulent and deformed outcome. Therefore, what we're doing here today and the fact that community of persons with disability is taken into consideration is a worthy cause. for electoral reforms to be very inclusive, I want to articulate in the next 4 minutes and 5 seconds 5 key areas. Number one, let me even begin before I mention these 5 key areas by using this opportunity to call on the Senate President to please borrow a leave from the House Speaker, who have designated a specific committee for persons with disability. I think we deserve that, and I know, being an uncommon leader, that he will take this uncommon step to serve the common people of persons with disability. So with that said, number one, we need to increase and deepen the awareness of persons with disability to participate in the electoral process. And it is very, very important because oftentimes what we do is to approach the community to seek for them to vote for you. There's nothing wrong in doing that, but we have grown and we have come of age that we don't just want to vote for you, we also want to be voted for. And therefore, the awareness must be deepened to let them know that the right to vote is not tokenism. The right to vote is their fundamental human right. Number two is the electoral body. And every time we talk about the electoral body, we always look at the national electoral body. I think we need to go beyond that, because one of the problems of democracy in this country is that of focusing on the national and what happens at the national. I think if we want to get it right as a nation, we need to go back to the grassroots and look at the local government election. And so this reform process must also focus on what can be done at the local government. Because if we get it right at the bottom, we will get it very right at the top. The other thing is the political parties. And when I talk about the EMBs, I think we need to look at policies and reforms that are truly robust and inclusive. But let me go to the political parties. I think the problem sometimes with the electoral process, not all politicians, but crooked politicians, people who are determined to make the process ungovernable, people who are determined to ensure that they will find a way to twist and untwist citizens to do what they want. And I think we need to begin to look at how inclusive is our political party, from their internal democracy to how they select candidates. Persons with disability have suffered enough. All that we get is structures that exist without the proper push and good intentions. I think we need to do something about how our political parties function to be truly inclusive. Let me deal with the issue of electoral security. I thank God that all my friends are seated here today. The security of the marginalized group is very pertinent if you must have a successful electoral processes and outcome. Therefore, if we join hands together and truly put our hearts in the process to get the electoral process inclusive, we will have a truly inclusive outcome. Remember, as I end, any democratic process that is void of all is an absolute rape on democracy. Thank you.
Inclusivity is a watchword here, and we'd like to thank you for sticking to time. The next Goodwill message to ladies and gentlemen is going to be coming from the Nigerian Women Trust Fund. Do we have the representative of Nigerian Women Trust Fund? Please come take your shot, and you have 5 minutes, please, and your time starts just as you get to the podium. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. And as he has just said, I stand on all existing protocols. At the Nigerian Women Trust Fund, we wish to express our deep concern regarding the current state of Nigeria's electoral process. As an engaged and conscientious observer committed to advocating for transparent, fair, inclusive, and accountable democratic practices, we are compelled to address the systemic challenges currently affecting our electoral system. This concern arises from the persistent issues facing our democracy, emphasizing the urgent need for a comprehensive review of both the Constitution and recently enacted Electoral Act of 2022. The recent general elections revealed an alarming gender imbalance with a disheartening low number of elected female candidates. To rectify this discrepancy, it is imperative to consider innovative measures, such as the 35% affirmative action, which is currently being appealed by the federal government through the Ministry of Justice. As you can remember, the women won the case against the government last year, and the government is appealing. Another measure that can be adopted is entrenching gender policies within political parties. Yeah, so why can't we have a male chairman this year, 4 years after a female? And we keep going that way. In that way, we'll have both male and female, rather than always having men as chairmen of political parties. Where did I stop? Okay. So the presidential elections also shed light on specific inadequacies within our electoral framework. Notably, Section 60, subsection 5 of the Electoral Act 2022, while the intention behind the provision is commendable, it lacks explicit guidelines on electronic voting, collation, and transmission processes. We are tired of hearing analysts come on TV to tell us, well, electronic voting is not part of our law. And then we can go and look at some other processes. We would like INEC to be held more accountable. And if we're looking at the 2019 case, the Locus Classicus, Marco and another versus Sule and another, where the Supreme Court decided that the petitioner has 21 days from the date of declaration of results to file a petition. We want INEC to take more responsibility in terms of providing CTC copies of documents that petitioners will need so that they won't have issues going to courts like we had during the PEPT. Additionally, in the appointment of the INEC chairman, we would like the process to be more independent. And what we mean by that is there should be a way by which someone can move through the ranks within INEC and become a chairman. Because we don't want a situation where the INEC chairman is being appointed by the president. I mean, it doesn't make sense if someone is officiating a football match and one of the players is the appointee. It's not fair at all. Okay. So finally, would like a situation where the INEC chairman must not be a professor. So let's get our hands off the academia and let our professors stay in school and raise our children. That is why we have certificate forgers and half-baked students who come out and then they keep giving us the usual show of shame. I hope I haven't taken more than 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We can, let me also just quickly mention that if, in the course of your presentation, if the presenter before you has emphasized a particular point I think it won't be necessary for us to repeat that, so we can move on, because I'm sure there are loads and loads of things for each of you presenters to talk about here. So thanks for sticking to time. Your presentation was just right on time. Thank you very much. And the next presentation, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be coming from Electoral. Do we have the representative of Electoral? Please come forward, and you have just 5 minutes. If she's not here, we can move on to the next. Representative of Electoral, and is a he that is electing her. What an irony. Please, can we have that round of applause for him? I love this. And please, when you come on to the microphone, please don't forget to introduce yourself, your name particularly.
Good morning. My name is Abdulmumin Usman, proud to be representing Electoral, championing the cause of advancing women's political participation in Nigeria. To ride on what our partner NWTF has already said, I'd like to focus this on a call to action to review existing voter outreach strategies. At Electoral, we are concerned about the alarming decline in voter outreach, reaching a historic low of about 29% in the just concluded national elections. The recent off-cycle elections in Imo, Kogi, and Bayelsa, expecting a change or an improvement, despite exceeding over 1 million voter registration, we recorded, in all of the 3 states, none of them recorded over 50% voter turnout. This figure, the lowest in history of any African election. It used to be the 1996 Zimbabwean election, but Nigeria has taken over. The 2023 election is the lowest turnout recorded in any African election. This casts a long shadow over the legitimacy of our process and even the effectiveness of our civic engagement efforts. While addressing voter turnout requires a multifaceted and a collaborative effort among stakeholders, we need to go back to the drawing board to look at our voter outreach strategies. How inclusive are they? How gender responsive are they? To reverse this trend, we must embark on a reviewed focus on inclusive voter outreach strategies that regularly monitors, evaluate their effectiveness, and make data-driven adjustment. Recently, we were in Kogi engaging with local CSOs, and one of the strategies employed by these CSOs is posting on social media, leveraging social media platforms to reach out to these voters. And I put to them a question. Do you know the percentage of Kogi women who are actively present on social media or who have digital footprints? They didn't know. To put it to you, according to the multiple indicator survey that was conducted by UNICEF in collaboration with the National Bureau of Statistics, only 15% of women in Kogi State have access to the internet. So we need to go back to see how inclusive some of these strategies are. To conclude, some of the strategies that have been implemented in more developed democracies that have yielded good results, investments in door-to-door canvassing, community meetings, SMS or mobile updates, phone banking, collaborating with the telecoms companies to send out or make direct phone calls to prospective voters. I know there are issues around data protection, especially with the passage of the data protection law, but this is something that both the Senate, the National Assembly, and CSOs should look into. Then leveraging social media and the traditional media, these are some of the strategies that we believe that the investment in this would lead to a more inclusive and improvement in our voter turnout in subsequent elections. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to just mention that His Excellency the President of the Senate, distinguished Senator Dr. Godswill Obotakpabio, CON, the incumbent President of the Senate, is represented here this morning by his Chief of Staff, the Honorable Barrister Sylvester Okonkwo. I'd like that we please welcome him with a round of applause. He's sitting in for the President of the Senate. Welcome. Moving on very quickly with the presentations, would like to then invite Save Our Soul Children's Village. Can we have the representative of Save Our Souls Children's Village, SOS Children's Village, 5 minutes, and your time starts now. Can we please applaud him as he makes his way here?
Thank you. Standing on the existing protocol, my name is Gabriel David Tuchku, and I'm representing the National Director of SOS Children's Villages, Mr. Ehosa Ehumwose. What we would like to highlight to this distinguished committee and this plenary is the specific issues that is actually contributing to the reduction, the decline, the sudden decline in voter participation in our elections. I like the fact that the last speaker from Electoral highlighted that we've recorded 29% participation in the last election. That is a very minimal number when you look at the population of the country itself. And one of the reasons it's because citizens no longer feel safe to participate in elections. And for us, as we are advocating that this honorable committee, this distinguished committee, should look at the issue around abuse of power by political elements. Because by the time you see Nigerians wanting to participate in elections, they don't feel safe going out there to involve themselves in the process. That's one. Secondly, we are looking at, we would also want this committee to look at the issue that has to do with prosecution. And in this time around, we don't mean prosecution by mere words, but let's back this by action, where those who perpetrate electoral violence are actually persecuted. This would discourage other persons who would want to get themselves involved in this process. We would also like this honorable committee to look at issues around, technology, full incorporation of technology in our electoral process. This will help to reduce human elements in the process, because by the time I know that votes basically are transmitted electronically and there is nothing I can do by way of snatching ballots or targeting polling units with high numbers, that will help to curb the issues of electoral violence and at the same time encourage citizens to participate in the process. Key in all of this also is the issues around recruitment of security personnel. Their welfare as well. They are also humans just like us. And one of the reasons why you see that they become prey to politicians who induce them financially is because their welfare are not well taken care of. So these are issues that we are appealing to this distinguished to the committee to actually look into. And finally, you all bear witness to the fact that what happened in this last election. The country at the moment, there's issues around division across board, religious and ethnic division. We want to seek that INEC, collaborating with other agencies such as the National Orientation Agencies and the likes, to embark on a massive reorientation of the populace. Let there be one thing that unites each and every one of us as citizens. At this point in time, we don't even know if there's that common goal that brings us together as a people. And this in itself is affecting or contributing to the issues that we are currently having. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'd like to appreciate all of you speakers for the respect for the time allotted to you. Thank you very much. Let's keep it going and let's keep the conversations coming. Fix Politics Initiative is next with their presentation. Do we have the representative of Fix Politics Initiative? Please a warm round of applause for him. In the same vein, as you make your way here, please don't hesitate to introduce yourself to this wonderful audience. A warm round of applause one more time, please.
Thank you. My name is Anthony Ubani. I'm Executive Director representing Fix Politics Initiative. Let me also stand on existing protocol and start by appreciating and recognizing the Executive Director and his team of IAGA Africa for providing this opportunity. Let me also thank the Senate Committee Chair and the House of Rep Chair for Electoral Matters for taking the initiative for this partnership. I believe that we need more of these kinds of partnership between civil society and government. Having said that, Fixed Politics believes strongly that the reason why we have poor governance is because of broken politics. Because our politics is broken not just in Nigeria, but across Africa. And because our politics is broken, it becomes impossible for us to have any semblance of good governance. And of course, when you don't have good governance, it becomes also impossible for you to have economic and human development. That is our situation in Nigeria. There has been many initiatives towards reform of our electoral system. And I would like to respectfully reference the one that is very common in Nigeria that happened under the late Yar'Adua's regime, which is popularly called the Uwais Electoral Reform Report. We keep trying to reinvent the wheel year after year, year after year. The question we should ask ourselves is, why has the Uwais report not been actioned? There is virtually nothing anyone can say that is new about electoral reform that you will not find contained in that comprehensive Uwais report. So it begs the question why administration after administration seems to ignore that report. Why are we so interested in reinventing the wheel when the wheel has been invented? Why do we continue to have these debates, these conversations, when we have a document that we can pick up, perhaps see what is new, what we can add to it based on the time difference, and what we can take away from it and move forward? So let me say that we stand on the principles that have already been established in the Uwais report. Having said that, let me also make the point about the diaspora, Nigerians in the diaspora. It is very difficult for us to claim to be the most important democracy in the continent, and yet we do not have legal frameworks that allow our citizens in the diaspora to vote. Practically all African countries, I believe there should be over 30 of them, have different forms of legal arrangements for their citizens in the diaspora to vote. The question is, why is the giant of Africa running away from this responsibility? Why do we find it very easy to spend billions and billions on things that are not relevant to national development, things that are not relevant to the advancement of democracy, and yet this fundamental action, which our National Assembly is able to take, have not been taken up till now? So we'd like to strongly recommend that the committee should please revisit this question of Nigerians in diaspora being able to carry out their franchise. That is very important. The last point I would like to make, because of time, I believe we just have 5 minutes, is just to emphasize the point of the judiciary. The judiciary, as we know, is supposed, usually they are called the last hope of the poor man. It appears that the narrative is beginning to change in Nigeria, and we need to be very careful. Because the poor man, as we like to call them in Nigeria, the poor are beginning to see the judiciary as a place where their hopes are destroyed. Now, if that narrative is not changed and addressed very quickly, we will be in very serious trouble. The case in question of what is happening in Kano, what is happening in Plateau, what is happening in so many states is becoming a problem. It is one thing for me to say, distinguished and honorable legislators, for you to make a law, right? it's another thing that is very important for the judiciary to interpret it correctly. And so many of us have questions as to the interpretation of the law by the judiciary. And I think this is something that has to be addressed, and it will be helpful if, in making the reforms that we are going to make, we ensure that laws are articulated in such a way that they are very clear and very effective. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The ground rules, part of the ground rules we gave were that we must stick to time, respect time, mutual respect, no profane and abusive words. I also must add here that if there are litigations, we should please our conversation and presentations should stay off litigations or cases that are in court or pending in court completely in this conversation. Thank you very much, Fixed Politics. You exceeded my time by 2 minutes, but it was just okay. Thank you very much. I'd like to then invite the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, and standing in for that great institute is the immediate past INEC chairman, Professor Atahiru Jega. Would like that you come up to the podium. So please, you also have 5 minutes. Thank you so very much. He has 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes. So let's encourage him with another round of applause, please.
For a professor of political science discussing election, 5 minutes is just for preamble, you know. But I will respect the time. I stand on existing protocol, and I would like to commend the leadership of the 10th National Assembly, as well as the chairs of the Joint Committee on Electoral Matters, for the commitment to start electoral reforms early in this new electoral cycle leading to 2027. And I know that between 2011 and 2022, a lot of efforts have been made by civil society organizations, by INEC itself, and the previous national assemblies were either reluctant or not favorable to serious efforts to electoral reforms until 2022. So I think this is very commendable that a few months after the inauguration of a new government, the process has already commenced towards electoral reform. I think it's a very important thing that needs to be commended. I'm Atahiru Jega. I'm a professor in the Department of Political Science, Bayero University, but I'm also a consultant to NILS. And that's why the chairman of NILS asked me to be here. I believe because I made a presentation to the Senate committee, to the Senate retreat on electoral reform matters. So that's why I'm here. But the representative of the DG is actually Professor Omoregi, who is the head of the Legal Affairs Department, Legislative Affairs Department. So what I have done is to pull a summary of my presentation to the Senate retreat, which you already have. There are about 7 different areas in which I made recommendations for further electoral reforms. I agree that the 2022 electoral reform is the best electoral act that we've had in the history of this country, no doubt about it, but there is still a lot of room for improvement. So that is why it's important to keep on improving this. The recommendations I made cover area of use of technology in elections, relating to voting rights and inclusivity, relating to political parties, relating to electoral dispute resolution and judicial adjudication, and relating to institutional independence and effectiveness of INEC. I've also identified other matters which are complementary reforms, say in the area of security or in the area of public enlightenment and civic education, which are also necessary for electoral integrity. But I want to just, in this 5 minutes, focus my attention on what I consider very, very important outside of what, in general, people discuss. The first point I want to make is that if we want to improve our politics, deepen our democracy, and improve electoral integrity, it is necessary to proscribe cross-carpeting by politicians from one party to another. I think this is very, very important. And I think the reason why it does not seem to be appealing to our legislators to do that is because the challenges they face in the primaries force many of them to move to other parties where they think they will find a platform to contest. And when they cross carpet, they move, in most cases in the legislatures, to the ruling parties. But it undermines the fundamental essence of democracy. You know, people have elected you under a platform, under a program, and it is really unbecoming, to my mind, for somebody to abandon that mandate that has been given to him or her to now move to another party. And we have seen this not just in the legislature, now even executive governors that have been elected are abandoning their mandate midway and moving to another party. And the law is very, very clear. If you move, unless there is a crisis in your party, obviously you have to vacate that seat, and a by-election needs to be conducted to fill the vacancy. So I believe that we need to ensure that in the Electoral Act moving forward, we proscribe the issue of cross-carpeting. If you cross-carpet, then it is a matter of principles. Then you should be able to vacate your seat and go for another election if you want to go again. I think it's a very, very important issue that we must address, because it's one of those things that really destroy the essence of democratic electoral politics in our country. The other point I want to emphasize, and many people have pointed to it, so I want to discuss it in detail. I will say I strongly support the recommendation that the appointment of the chairman, the national commissioners, and the resident electoral commissioners should be reviewed. I think the conventional method in which the president nominates, and invariably what the president nominates does not go through rigorous screening and is basically supported by the legislature, I think we have to avoid this. We need a transparent process. We need to ensure there is full screening. In particular, we need to ensure that the legal provisions about non-partisanship, about integrity of the people nominated are actually taken very seriously. And the other point I wish to quickly make is that it's also important to unbundle INEC. INEC is saddled with too much responsibility, and this is affecting other core responsibilities of INEC. So the unbundling of INEC needs to be given serious attention. Lastly, I want to suggest that we need to review how people stand to contest, in particular presidential. Maybe we can even extend it to governorship elections. I think Nigeria is one of the few countries where anybody can form a political party and run for presidential elections, which creates very serious problems in terms of logistics of the preparation, wastefulness with regards to the resources deployed for elections. I think we need to create a threshold. A political party cannot field a candidate for president until they meet certain thresholds. And this is done in many other countries, and we need to begin to pay attention to that in this country. Otherwise, we'll continue to have these problems where in an election, you have 20 candidates. At one time, we have almost 73 candidates on the presidential ballot paper. And except for about 2 or 3, most of them hardly get even 1% of the votes. So you've wasted a lot of resources, which you have to moderate. So I will stop here, and I will make a presentation of the paper containing all my recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Tahiru Jega, and we appreciate your very invaluable contributions. Thank you very much. Moving on very quickly, I'm just going to speak because I'm privileged to have the power of the microphone. I haven't heard anybody talk about independence candidacy or candidature, you know, because I think that is another way forward, because our political parties. Anyway, let me just leave it to the presenters so that it doesn't look like I'm beginning to preempt your presentations. I'd like to just quickly invite Next Action. And Next Action is here, and Yola, you have just 5 minutes. And your 5 minutes starts now, just as you mount the microphone. And then, of course, Kimpact Development Initiative, please be on standby. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Permit me to stand on every existing protocol. My name is Eniola Cole, Executive Director, Next Action, a civil society organization, an accredited election observer group that deployed ahead of the 2023 general elections. Next Action was a member of organizations of several coalitions pushing for electoral reform that yielded the passage of the 2022 Electoral Act. After the elections, it was disheartening to see that there are still loopholes that greatly undermine the credibility of the electoral process. And this was made known to us from the February 25, 2023 general elections, where we deployed 437 election observers nationwide for the 2023 presidential and National Assembly elections. In our memorandum to the Joint Committee, Next Action makes key recommendations to the National Assembly Joint Committee on Electoral Matters as follows. The first thing for us is we need to go back to our 1999 Constitution and review Section 134, subsection 1A and subsection 2A, as well as other relevant sections of the 1999 Constitution as amended, to require absolute majority, which is 50% plus 1, as against highest number of votes, while retaining the required spread nationwide. This will help to encourage inter-party democracy, reduce the number of split votes, and allow for political party mentoring and growth ahead of subsequent elections. And for us, this is very important because highest number of votes, as we have it, does not reflect the will of the majority and is also a source of major disagreement even among the voting population. Also, a review of the electoral legal framework to address the process of appointing the INEC chairman, national commissioners, and resident electoral commissioners to require years of professional experience in election administration and management, and to also introduce a transparent public nomination and screening process is highly recommended. Knowledge and experience of election administration cannot be overemphasized in appointing these leadership positions over the election management body. The 2023 general elections also provided an opportunity for review of the electronic voter register as a truer reflection of Nigeria's voting population emerged. To this end, Next Action recommends that registered voters on the EVR who have not voted in the last 3 elections be expunged from the electronic voter register to re-register through a seamless online voter registration process on a later date. The permanent voter cards should also be expunged as a required identification to be replaced by any valid means of ID or solely the BVAS recognition process. This will greatly reduce the cost of elections, eliminate deceased persons, and address other challenging areas in sanitizing the EVR. The need to review the current two-step process of voter registration to a single-day event also is recommended based on the advent of election technology, as well as a specialized tech team to monitor election logistics, deployment, and retrieval, modeling the system used by the RATEX for BVAS functionality, and it is highly recommended. Poor reverse logistics strategies has allowed for varying levels of political infractions from the polling units to the registration area collation centers for the past 24 years of Nigeria's elections. In this light, we also recommend to the Joint Committee that the role of election technology be strengthened in the Electoral Act. This includes introducing clauses that state that technological devices used for elections should not be reconfigured or tampered with post-election to allow for post-election petition tribunals and other processes to be concluded. Timelines for deployment of election technology should also be appropriately addressed in INEC guidelines. Now, as we move forward and as we move towards infusing more technology in the electoral process, online registration, results management of ballots, and the BVAS management should also be made accessible by use of technology. Now, finally, distinguished senators, honorable members, Nigerians, we want democracy. We don't want a semblance of democracy, and we appeal to the Joint Committee to give us electoral reform that will deliver truly the dividends of democracy to Nigerians. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the fact that you decided to keep to time. Kimpact Development Initiative. Can we have your presentation in 5 minutes? Just as I recognize Honorable Yahya Richifa, Member, House of Representatives, and a member of the Committee on Electoral Matters. Let's welcome him, please.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Oluwafemi John, and I represent Kimpact Development Initiative. Our major concern lies at the unabated electoral insecurity, which some called electoral violence in Nigeria. It will amaze you and surprise you that towards, of course, in 2023 general elections, we tracked and document 586 electoral violence between January 2022 to April 2023, in which 47% of those happened in the first quarter of 2023. 2023 is not just that. If you look at that from 2015, 2019, it has been on the increase. Even fatality has been on the increase. One of the effects of this is it affects voter participation. We are all aware of that. Most importantly, civic and voter education is not just enough to curb this, because we've been talking about civic and voter education a whole lot of time. It will surprise you that over 1,587 polling units in the 2023 general elections were actually cancelled for cases of violence. So it's just to us, it seems to us that violence is a low-cost strategy for electoral manipulation in the country, because the Electoral Act also put a punitive measure that if there are violence, that polling unit should be cancelled. And it's one of the strategies being used. So in the light of this, electoral violence accountability becomes essential. In 2020, of course, we all are aware Section 145.2, domicile prosecution with INEC. And if you look at the process of prosecution when we talk about accountability, 2021, I think in 2013, I heard Professor Atari Jega talk about the fact that the manpower for INEC is not enough for prosecution. We're all aware of that. In 2019, the current chairman also mentioned the same. And that is why we're talking about the need for the National Electoral Offences Commission and, of course, Electoral Tribunal. Why do I add tribunal to it is because one of the challenges that is happening is also most of these electoral offenders are being prosecuted in the regular court, in which the judiciary is inundated with a lot of civic and criminal cases already, which are even pending when it comes to electoral post-election litigation, electoral petition tribunal. Let me just quickly say this. Towards the 2023 general election, there are close to 1,800 pre-election cases in which INEC was joined in virtually all of this. After the election, 1,209 election petitions were filed, in which INEC practically is joined in all. So INEC has quite a lot of things to do in that regard. So one of the reasons why the electoral tribunal is very important is that when election petition is going on, all of these civic and criminal cases are also pending, because most of the judges, and we're all aware of the situation of the judiciary, know enough judges in the country as regards this, and that is why it is important, so that we can also have a separate tribunal that try this process. Many of us will ask questions, what would this tribunal be doing after possibly, of course, after election electoral offenses? They will also be saddled with the responsibility of pre-election, post-election litigation, and trying electoral offenders in the country. And that is very important, and that is why we're saying that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you very much indeed. We will we'll take a breather at this point, where we'll be inviting the number 3 citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Uncommon President of the Uncommon Senate, His Excellency Senator Dr. Godswill Obotakpabio, CON, ably represented here by his Chief of Staff, Honorable Barrister Sylvester Okonkwo, to please come and deliver the goodwill message, special remarks of his President of the Senate. Honorable Barrister Sylvester Okonkwo, standing in for the President of the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Mr. Chairman of the Senate Committee on Electoral Matters, the representative of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Dr. Tajuddin Abbas, here represented by Dr. Patrick Umar, the Chairman of House of Representatives Committee on Electoral Matters, various dignitaries, and in particular, our dear Professor Jega, listening to you gave me a lot of joy. And all members of the high table, and in particular, our partners, Yaga. When I listened to you, Professor Jega, and all the issues you enumerated, and the fact that election and democracy is a process, it continues, and will continue to grow. So it gives me great pleasure to present this speech by His Excellency, the President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Obotakpabio, President of the 10th Senate, at this Citizens Town Hall on electoral matters and electoral reforms held today at Ladikwali Hall. For me, it is a wonderful engagement with the public, especially when it is in a location outside the premises of the National Assembly. It gives us an opportunity to reinforce the trust and mandate given by our people to us, and to also sustain the expected connection between the legislative institution and the citizens. More importantly, this is an occasion targeted at addressing a crucial matter which the leadership of National Assembly considers very weighty, and a very weighty matter that must be addressed for our democratic journey to positively move forward. As representatives of the people, citizens' engagement at all levels is crucial to our democratic process, and the 10th National Assembly intends to place engagements and inclusiveness as a priority. For the electoral process, we are committed not only to go along with the people on the call for reforms to the electoral legal framework, but at the same time, protect the independence of the Independent National Electoral Commission and also restore the trust of our people in the electoral process. And we cannot in any way truly achieve this objective in isolation. All stakeholders, most of whom are represented here today, must be doggedly involved in this. Therefore, my appeal to all of you and those that are not here but are actors in this process is, let us do this together and change the fortunes of our democratic process for the good of our country. For history will record every move that we make in moving this country forward. As you can see, the committee in the Senate and House of Representatives have approached this process in a way that will be most beneficial, especially in terms of completing this process within a reasonable time frame. I also noticed that consultations and collaboration have kicked off. Collaborating with Yaga Africa and other social society organizations as partners is a step in a wonderful way and great direction. I'm also aware that members of National Assembly Joint Committee on Electoral Matters had a retreat in Lagos just 2 weeks ago, facilitated by the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, PLAC. I was rightly informed that a communique from the retreat will be merged with the outcomes from this Citizen Town Hall as inputs to the expected electoral reforms. You will agree with me that within just a very short period of time, after being inaugurated, the Joint Committee has started very well. Let us put our hands together for them. The leadership of National Assembly will give all its support to the committee in achieving its objectives. I cannot end this speech without emphasizing that the National Assembly and this administration is ready to work with anyone and everyone that is interested in the progress and development of this nation, not only on issues of electoral reform, but also in formulating legislative initiatives and policies that will revamp our economy and put us in the driving seat of industrial and economic advancement with all the positive efforts and pragmatic approaches to issues that matter. This renewed hope will be a reality and a stepping stone to moving this country forward. I want to say that time has come for all of us to be positive about our country. It does not do us any good as a country that each time we start to talk, we talk about our negatives. Let us also find time to talk about the great achievements that is being made and that will continue to be made for the betterment of our country. I want to thank all participants at this special event and wish every one of you successful deliberation. God bless you, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
The words of distinguished Senator Dr. Godswill Obotakpabio, CEO and President of the Senate, speaking through the Chief of Staff there. Please, can we applaud him one more time? We're going straight to taking more presentations at this point, having listened to the two presiding officers of the National Assembly. First was the Speaker, and the second was that of the President of the Senate. I'd like to very quickly yield the floor, and just as I said, the ground rules entails that we maintain mutual respect for each other's opinion, and please stick to the 5 minutes allotted, and also please no profane and abusive words, and stay off any case that is pending in court in the course of your submissions and presentations. Thank you very much. In the light of that, I'd like to quickly invite Center for Media Society, SEMASO, to please come forward. Center for Media and Society. Does you take 5 minutes, and your time starts right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to stand firmly on the existing protocols. My name is Timothy Bamdele. I will be reading this speech on the behalf of Dr. Akimbulu, who is the Executive Director of Center for Media and Society, as well as International Press Center. I'm glad to have this opportunity to make some contribution into today's conversation on behalf of the Center for Media and Society, SEMASO, and International Press Center, IPC. We have decided to make a short intervention in the subject of today's intervention, especially on hate speech in Nigeria electoral process, with a few proposals for reforms effort. Our two organizations are passionate about this subject. Hence, we have worked for many years in tracking hate speech in the content of media platforms, specifically broadcast, print, and online platforms, and are using our experience therefrom to engage capacity building for media professionals among several interventions. Our objective is to have the media provide fair, accurate, inclusive, and generally professional coverage of the electoral process. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, from our work, we have found that hate speech is one of the strongest enemies of a free, fair, inclusive, and credible elections. It turns electoral context into a war. It destroys the interest and enthusiasm of citizens for participation in elections. It has a strong potential to produce a divided society. Political actors who engage in or defend hate speech usually hide under the canopy of human rights, especially freedom of expression, but they are wrong. The territory of hate speech is that space beyond freedom of expression where the rights of others are not respected and where people ignore the reality that freedom, including freedom of speech, must be accompanied by responsibility. Interestingly, hate speech has attracted global attention to the extent that international and national instruments have been established to address it. For example, Article 19 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR, states that everyone shall have the right to freedom of expression. The right shall include, number one, freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds, regardless of frontiers, either orally or in writing or in print, in the form of art, through any other media of its choice. But the ICCPR also recognizes that this freedom must be with responsibility and that it may be subject to restriction in law and which are necessary for respect of the citizen right and reputation of others and for the protection of their rights and national security or for public order, public health, or public morals. In Nigeria, legal instruments also address hate speech. Section 39 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, provide as follows. Well, the section 39 of the Nigerian 1999 Constitution sufficiently addressed that. Let me jump forward. However, we have identified some challenges. Yes, I'm going quickly to the recommendation. I jump it. We have identified some challenges with dealing with hate speech. The first is the attitude of policymakers that legislation alone, especially vicious one, is the answer to hate speech. History and contemporary reality have shown the inadequacy of this approach. Number two, there have been challenges with dealing with hate speech through legislation. These challenges are visible in the areas of definition, implementation, and enforcement. Very often, legislation or regulation contain contentious definition of hate speech, sometimes the instruments are not implemented until there is one political target to be persecuted. Let me quickly just go to our recommendation. What to do? We propose as follows. Number one, create more space for citizen participation in the expression. That is, government authorities, including regulatory agencies, media, and civil society. Expand expression diversity through provision of more platforms that give voice to understand our marginalized group. Expand civic space and voter education in an innovative way, and strengthening partnership among electoral actors such as election management body, that is EMB, civil society, media, and political parties. Very importantly, the EMB, other agencies, and civil society should strengthen the monitoring, analysis, and reporting on hate speech in media content. And we should develop and strengthen early warning system on hate speech and deal with issues early before the election. We should support capacity building and ensure that legislature and the regulator work together. On this note, thank you for listening.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Have a nice day. I actually just didn't know that the mic was on, and I said that wasn't really nice. And given 5 minutes representing Center for Media and Society, and he overran the tarmac, I don't know, but let's just forgive him. Please give him a round of applause. Thank you very much. Please, subsequent speakers, we plead with you. Respect for time is very, very important. And so we'll invite a Center for Journalism, Innovation, and Development. Do we have the representative here? Please, 5 minutes as well. Skip protocol and straight to the point. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Boeno is my name, from the Center for Journalism, Innovation, and Development. So standing on existing protocol, I just get straight into our presentation. So we're recommending that every citizen should be allowed to vote wherever they reside, irrespective of where they registered. So the permanent voter's card should be able to work like an ATM. That's one of our recommendations. And in respect to disinformation, as it regards to elections, we're recommending that companies and organizations that are used in creating and spreading disinformation should be heavily sanctioned and severely punished. So on election petition, we're recommending that the burden of proof should be on INEC, since it's their processes that is being questioned. So this is one thing we think would also help the electoral process. If we could also recommend that maybe INEC should also consider staggered elections, considering the vastness of Nigeria and its voting population. We also recommend that early voting should be brought into place to give an opportunity to almost 5 million Nigerians who are constantly disenfranchised. I think I want to take a pause here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The very next presentation is going to be coming from the Nigerian Police Force, and we have a Commissioner of Police here standing in for Kayode Egbetokun, the Inspector General of Police. Can we please invite the Commissioner of Police standing in for the Inspector General? So please take 5 minutes as well.
Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. As you have been told, my name is CP Basil Idegu, CP Election Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, and I'm standing in for the Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Egbetokun, PhD, NPM. He has asked me to deliver this speech on his behalf, and first and foremost to commend and congratulate the Senate and House of Representatives Joint Committee on Electoral Matter for this laudable initiative for constructive dialogue on electoral reform. Having said that, I want to say that free, fair, and credible elections are the bedrock of democracy. While it is the responsibility of all stakeholders to ensure that elections take place in a conducive environment, the task of securing the electoral process rests squarely with the police as the lead agency in election security. It is therefore the statutory duty of the police, with the support of other security agencies, to ensure that voters, election workers, and observers are secure enough to discharge their civic and constitutional duties, providing qualitative, seamless, and stress-free electoral services for the electorate requires that the security agencies have an adequate knowledge of the rules of engagement. The Nigeria Police Force, as a critical stakeholder in election security management in the country, having observed some areas requiring attention in the Electoral Act and the general guideline on election matters, hereby make the following submission. The first is on the issue of arrest at polling units. The Electoral Act in Section 5, subsection 1 of the 2022 Electoral Act empowers the police to make arrests when an electoral offense is committed at the polling unit subject to the directive of the electoral officer. It is our humble submission that the police should be at liberty to make arrests of suspects, electoral offenders who commit or are found to be committing electoral offenses in their presence. Now, the issue of getting an electoral officer to instruct the police to carry out arrest has been a very controversial matter. Recently, we had a situation where the man who was to give the directive was the suspect. So how do you expect the police to handle that kind of situation? And then the second aspect is on the issue of prosecution of electoral offenders. By virtue of Section 146, subsection 1 and 2 of the Electoral Act of 2022, prosecution of all electoral offenses is to be carried out by the legal officers of the Independent National Electoral Commission. This means that the police only make arrests where necessary, investigate, and hand over to the Commission for prosecution. We are of the opinion that where the prosecutory powers is also extended to the police who make arrests and carry out investigations, the electoral offenses will be more successfully prosecuted. And then that will give us the ability to keep tab on the successful prosecution of those cases. Because in most cases, the police are left in the dark as to which of the offenders have been successfully prosecuted. Now, the issue of security. You will agree with me that the era where you post unarmed security personnel to any assignment whatsoever is rather outdated. The society has become highly militarized to the extent that in most cases, armed thugs will invade the polling unit for safety, including the security personnel, because they lack the capacity to even defend themselves before defending the electorate and other people. So I think that is an area that we need to look into. If you are deploying maybe 4 personnel to the polling unit, if we can have 2 of them who are adequately armed with both rifle and riot fighting equipment to deter thugs from upturning the electoral process into chaos. And then we equally talked about the issue of punishment. You look at the electoral law, you see that most of these punishments awarded for offenses, they are not adequate enough to make any impact in the area of deterrence. Now, punishment for some electoral offenses as it is in the Electoral Act of 2022 may not in any way serve any deterrence to electoral offenders. For instance, by virtue of Section 126 of the Electoral Act 2022, any thug in possession of offensive weapon or wear or dress or have any facial or other decoration which in any event is calculated to intimidate, harass voters, etc., at a polling unit on election day is punished upon conviction to a term of just 6 months or fine of 100,000 naira. Same can be seen with regard to other offenses as contained in the Act. It is our sincere recommendation that the punishment for electoral offenses should be made more stiffer. Over the years, we have been contending with electoral violence since 1964. And rather than having it abated, it is getting more sophisticated. So we need to revisit some of our laws. It is our sincere recommendation that the punishment for electoral offenses should be made stiffer to serve as deterrent to others. Such punishment should equally be extended to sponsors of electoral violence. Now, I want to add voice to the call for the establishment of Electoral Offenses Commission. And I think that to a great extent, many people have talked about unbundling INEC. That will go a long way in making sure that we have a specific group of people who are charged with this duty. Thank you very much for listening.
4 minutes, 35 seconds. Please, a round of applause for the Nigerian Police Force. The next presentation, I'd like to invite the representative of the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, because Professor Atahiru Jega actually spoke for himself and as a former and immediate past INEC chair. So I'd like to invite at this point Professor Edoba Omorige, SAN, who's standing in for the News Director General. Please, a round of applause for him.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to be standing on the established protocol. I want to congratulate Yaga Africa, in particular the Executive Director for this wonderful event. I'm representing the Director General of the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, Professor Abubakar Suleiman, who is unavoidably absent, attending to international events outside Nigeria. There are so many interventions that have been made, but what we try to do after the intervention of Professor Jega, who was with us at the Institute, we thought that we should limit our particular intervention to just one single item, because it will capture the true essence of what we seek to do at NILS. So I've come with a prepared note, and it's titled Need to Reverse the Judicialization of the Electoral Process in Nigeria. Simply, what we are trying to say here is that, I'm sure many of us would have noticed it, that increasingly the judiciary has become deeply inserted in the electoral process of this country, and almost setting aside the will of the people. And we thought that from the research that this is wrong, because at the end of the day, the judiciary is contending with an intrinsic issue of the iron law of oligarchy. And what does that mean? Robert Mitchell propounded the idea of the iron law of oligarchy many, many years ago, to say that in every large bureaucracy, some persons, because of what they bring to the table, will become more prominent than others and determine the fate of many others within that bureaucratic organization. And political parties appear to be in the category of such organizations. And so if you continue to bring the judiciary into the process of managing the internal affairs of political parties, you are going to have a situation where, because the judiciary lacks the tool
to, to regulate political party behavior. Their tool is mainly adjudicatory, which is interpret laws that have been passed by either parliament or by the people, say in a constitution. And so when the court comes to a decision based on their interpretation of the law, the people almost always, get dissatisfied. Just a moment ago, somebody was saying loudly that the judiciary, in fact, that is the popular sentiment apparently now, that the judiciary will destroy the democracy of our country. So at NITS, we believe that there's need for us to, reduce, if not entirely, remove the judiciary from the process of election, particularly with respect to nomination exercise. And so these are basic recommendations. Therefore, to reverse the challenge of judicialization of Nigeria's electoral process, it is recommended as follows: the alteration of the provisions of the Constitution, an amendment of provisions of the Electoral Act 2022, which insert the courts too deeply into the fray in electoral disputes, especially at the point of nomination of candidates. The second recommendation is that the amendment of the provisions of the Electoral Act, particularly Section 134, that allows a political party or its candidates to challenge the nomination of candidates of another political party as a ground in an election petition. Essentially, what we believe is that if the courts are reduced or removed from the process, not in a manner that we currently do, then the likelihood is that the people's will be promoted and upheld, and then that the parties should also be allowed to play politics, to politicize their internal operations. So that the idea of internal democracy and so on, which we always talk about, seem to run foul of what researchers understand as the iron law of oligarchy. Thank you so much. That's my intervention.
Thank you very much, Professor Edoba Omorage, SAN. Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, your presentation is next, and you also have 5 minutes. Please can we welcome him with a round of applause.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Commandant Oliver Uguja. I'm representing NSCDC. I bring you greetings from my henchman. He would have been here before his tight schedules. I'm scrupulous and I know precisely what I was asked to do. I will go ahead and read verbatim what he gave me. I won't add or subtract because I still love this, my job. Okay. Number one, I will skip those that have already been overflogged and go straight to the new ideas. The need for the 2022 Electoral Act to be made to accommodate the electoral participation of all security officers cannot be ignored. The ability for security personnel to be accommodated to vote during national civic duties will not only enfranchise a large populace involved in security matters, but will give more bites and recognition to our electoral process. Number two, the independence of INEC could be further achieved by making her chairperson's salary to be unconsolidated salary. Such will make the INEC chairman to be insulated from ignoble influences. Number three, that the need for official engagement of NSCDC to undertake deployment of modern technology and state-of-the-art equipment for the protection of critical national assets and infrastructure before, during, and after election cannot be overemphasized. These assets are always at the mercy of miscreants before, during, and after elections, inventing their frustration, given that many officers of the corps are engaged in election operation. Hence, the alternate usage of UAV, that's an unmanned aerial vehicle, becomes very essential to protect these critical national assets. The proposed electoral reform should enable Nigerians abroad to enjoy diaspora voting. This will further encourage the INEC into more use of technology and further enrich INEC database. Number 6, the electoral reform of the 2022 Reform Act should also include the provision of independent candidates into the Nigeria electoral law. This will go a long way to evolve a robust electoral process for the nation at all levels of government. There is no against, number 7, there is no against saying that the 2022 Electoral Act has largely arrested the crimes of ballot box snatching. But this is largely replaced by avoidable incidents of unstamped ballot papers, whose material effect cannot be ignored. The reform should therefore criminalize the presence of unstamped ballot papers in any polling unit, so that the electoral officers in such PU should face termination of appointment and also jail term of 10 years, a minimum of 10 years, without any option of fine. Number 8, the ability of INEC to enforce accountability from political parties will stem from publication of INEC audited financial statement. Once this is achieved, it becomes a compelling reference for all the political parties to follow suit, and this will help the state of the nation. The only reform should attach a penalty of loss of office for failure to publish financial statements by INEC and all political parties. And as I was coming, a point just trickled in, and just give me, let me go straight and read it. And that should be number 9. The need to criminalize the menace of overvoting should attract attention of this proposed reform. Overvoting reduces credibility of electoral process, and it is a mockery of technology so deployed. Therefore, there is the need to prosecute any electoral officer in whose PU where overvoting is established, and this should attract a minimum jail term of 15 years and termination of appointment with no option of fines. I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're moving on pretty very fast. The next presentation will be coming, but just before then, let me recognize the presence of one of our friends, a human rights activist and a presidential candidate in 2019 elections and 2023 elections, respectively. Would like to welcome my friend and brother, Comrade Omoyele Sowore. Please let's welcome him with a round of applause. Thank you for joining us. Next presentation is going to be coming from Brain Builders Youth Development Initiative. Can we have you for just 5 minutes, and please skip protocol and go straight to your presentation. Your time starts now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Patrick Chukwu, representing Mr. Olasupo Abidin, Global Director.
I can understand. I can understand.
All right. So good afternoon again, everyone. I am Patrick Chukwu, representing Olasupo Abidin, the Global Director, Brain Builders Youth Development Initiative. And today, we are putting forward the following. The first is that voters' registration should be a continuous process. And as part of the effort to ensure voter registration is a continuous process, we recommend that a new subsection should be added to Section 9 of the Electoral Act to mandate the Electoral Commission to conduct voter registration all year round, because this will ensure periodic audits of the voter register, to provide ample time to update the register and ensure Nigerians collect their permanent voters card without hitches. Secondly, to mandate electronic transmission of election results, and that already has been spoken on. Thirdly, we want to recommend that we remove the power to appoint the INEC chairman or national commissioners and resident electoral commissioners from the president. The fourth is to establishment and recognition of an electoral offenses commission in the electoral. Experience has revealed that electoral offenders have consistently evaded punishment because of the commission seems to be overburdened with an avalanche of litigations. Thus, the establishment and recognition of the Electoral Offenses Commission to handle the arrest and prosecution of electoral offenders will go a long way to alleviate violations of the electoral law. Efforts at mitigating electoral malfeasance can only become effective with the arrest, the prosecution, and the sanctioning the murderous spiders to end their reign of impunity. Also, number 6, we have to address the ambiguous complexities and inadequacies of the electoral legal framework. Also, the voter identity management. INEC should undertake a comprehensive audit of the voter register to eliminate duplications, multiple registrants, and ineligible voters, and enhance the credibility of the voter register. To audit process, the audit process should be subjected to a public scrutiny to improve its transparency. And the National Assembly should amend the electoral legal framework to enable INEC to produce the voter register from the National Identity Database compiled by the National Identity Management Commission, NIMC. This will reduce the cost of elections. It will facilitate the regular updates to the register and foster harmonization of the national database. With the successful introduction of the BVAS that stores biometric information of voters, INEC should abolish the use of permanent voters' card and adopt the use of other legally acceptable means of identification for voter verification, such as driver's license, international passports, national identity card, among others. The next, raising the quality of political engagement and candidates selection. Political parties should eliminate the use of tactical and covert strategies of undermining the consequences of women, youth, and PWDs as candidates during primaries. And lastly, should boost voter turnout. Voting at elections is a constitutional right for citizens to participate in decision-making that affects their lives. Society and future generations, therefore, a minimum benchmark for voter turnout should be included in the Constitution before an election can be considered legitimate or conclusive. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tallman. We appreciate you. I Lead Africa, you're next. I Lead Africa. 5 minutes. Please, as usual, skip protocol and then move on with your presentation. But let me just quickly welcome Honorable David Abefur, is a member of the House of Representatives. He's here with us. Please, a warm round of applause for him.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Yusuf Leade Abiodun, representing I Lead Africa. I Lead Africa is a youth-focused organization that focuses on empowering young people and marginalized community. We leverage on digital technology to promote youth participation in politics and democratic processes. And that's why our recommendation will focus on the concern of young people. earlier before the 2023 general election, Yaga Africa released a report that assessed the youth candidacy between the 2019 election and this just concluded election. And from this report, it is so disheartening that we have a decline of 6%, which it's against the 34% that we have in 2023 of youth candidacy. We have 34% in 2019 of youth candidacy. And in this just concluded election, we have only 28.6%. That's a very bad situation in youth constituents. And one of the reasons of the Yaga Africa from this finding is the high cost of the nomination of political party, from the political party rather. The high cost of nomination from the political party have been one of the strongest blockage for the youth participation in politics, most especially for young people that want to go into the conventional politics. And we have some of the recommendations I'll be presenting. One of it is we need a very strong policy that's going to make it mandatory for all the political parties in Nigeria to have a quota for the youth candidates, or to have a percentage that's going to the youth constituency, that even if you don't have the money to buy it, or if the party are able to meet up with that percent, they won't be able to participate in the election. And another one that relates to that is a recommendation that there's a need for us to look at the political campaign finance. The political campaign finance has been a very strong when the political, or let me use the word, a big politician used to intimidate the young one that want to participate in the election. Because they know we only have the voice, we know I have the power, and we have what it takes. But when it comes to the financial aspect, we are incapacitated. And they are using this to marginalize the young people. Another one I would recommend is there's a need for us to build the capacity of young people beyond giving them the access to participate online. We need to include the young people from all the policy-making processes. That's why I'm giving a recommendation to the committee that put this together and the Yaga Africa for their support and inclusion of young people in this important event. So I won't like to take much of our time, but I would like to conclude this. The Not Too Young to Run bill in 2018 has been a very great and pride of the young people. But unfortunately, there's one blockage that limits the young people to participate in the conventional politics, which is the issue of finance. And I always suggest that there's a need for us to push forward another policy that I call not too poor to run. When young people and other citizens that don't have, without the classic of where you belong to, without your financial status, you will boldly come out and contest in the election. And it's going to make our democracy to be beautiful when all the citizens, they have the privilege and the opportunity to participate. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and thank you very much indeed. Thank you all. You've been so very wonderful and awesome. Action Democratic Party, I think, is the next that we have online for their presentation. Action Democratic Party. Can we please give them a round of applause as he makes his way here? I recognize the presence of Honorable Logun Wasiu, former member Ibeju Lekki Federal Constituency of Lagos State in the Third Republic. He's here with us. A warm round of applause for him, please. 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Just mention your name.
My name is Dr. Alex Mayanga, MNI. I'm the National Organizing Secretary of Action Democratic Party. Before I make this singular point,
I want to give a theoretical background to what I want to say. Before 1855, there was a word called band, B-A-N-D. And after 1855, the word wagon was added, and it became bandwagon. There is also this theoretical concept of herd mentalism or mentality. Herd mentality means that where a group or a single individual is going, there is a tendency for others to follow. And that's why when you see a herd of cattle, you see one moving in front, others will follow. And now brings me to the issue of election structure in Nigeria. And it is our desire that that structure should be changed. And that is, we should conduct election from bottom up, not from up down. Meaning, at the state level, if there is going to be an election, let it start with the councillors. Let it move up to the chairman. And at the national level, let it start, from the bottom, to the top. Because when the head of the cattle is moving, there is that tendency for others to follow. And so, let us not start from the presidency. Thank you very much.
I want to believe that he has spoken your mind to some extent, if he has. Please let's give him another round of applause, please. The President of the Senate, ably represented, Speaker, House of Representatives, ably represented, Chairman, Senate Committee on Electoral Reform, and your counterpart from the House of Representatives, honorable members, are very great resource persons, great Nigerian citizens, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We want to make this last segment very interactive, and I'll be asking a question from my end, and we are allotting just 1 minute for responses from all of you, or as many as would like to respond to the question that we're going to raise from here. And the question is very simple. What is the one reform you would like to see in our electoral process going forward? The one reform. So we have microphones, roving microphones, two gentlemen. Okay, gentleman and a lady, hold on. We're going to respond, but please, I'd like an assurance that you're going to spend just 1 minute in responding. Straight to the point. The man here, you're standing very close to a man. Please tell us your name and where you're from. Quickly.
My name is Abdullah Suleiman. I'm from Kaduna State. What I want to say in the reform is to look at the appointment of INEC heads, chairman and rec. I don't support that INEC chairman should not be appointed by the president, but the INEC chairman should not come from the same zone as the president. And also, if there can be a review on the appointment of rec, Resident Electoral Commissioner, that you should not be appointed by the president, but you should be from the INEC system in the civil service. So that is the reform I think can be done going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Please take the mic from him. The man from Immigrations, representing the Controller General of Immigrations. Would you like to say something? Please.
Thank you very much. I was in another program for Yaga Africa last week where I mentioned the PVC that was seized from foreigners, foreigners in Nigeria. I would like to reiterate it here that Nigerian Immigration Service have been working very hard to dissuade foreign elements from voting. As we all know, by our electoral law, the non-Nigerians can neither vote or be voted for. So maybe when the electoral law is being reviewed, we should maybe make a law on that, because there is no clear law dissuading, punishment, let me put it that way,
okay,
barring them from voting. Thank you.
All right. We're taking these randomly. So can we bring the microphone to the front row? The man with the Brother Johnson's hairstyle.
My name is, a very good afternoon to everyone. My name is Honorable Lucky Ehisobiya. I'm a gubernatorial aspirant for Edo 2024 elections. Now, I want to say this very clinically. I would want to see a reform in the manner at which any litigation immediately after any electoral contest, all litigations should be concluded before the swearing in of any perceived winner in any electoral arrangement. It is very, very pertinent. Reason, because the moment he or she enjoys the perk of office while in office, the resources at his disposal would be used to manipulate the process to his advantage in any litigation.
Thank you very much.
That is why I'm proposing that reform in that
Thank you very much. Yes, the man behind him. Don't worry, I'm coming to you, sirs.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Prince Oyede Oke from Ogun State. I'm the minority whip of the Nigerian Youth Parliament. So I would want to address the issue of unbundling INEC.
No, sir. That was not my question. You are expected to respond to the question I threw at all of us. The question is, what is the one reform you would like to see in our electoral process going forward?
Because the only reform I would want to say is that INEC should be excused from the responsibility of registering people. NIFC should take over that so as to reduce the cost on INEC also. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, there's a lady there. We must be gender sensitive.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm Naomi M.Y. Benjamin, the country lead Yamuje Golden Initiative. To avoid underage voting in some parts of Nigeria, the birth certificate should be shown as a proof before registering any person, individual. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, please hold on to that. Where's the lady here? Can you bring the microphone to the middle row, directly behind our TAF Foundation, J.K. Bele, just directly behind him. Yes, the two of you will speak.
Good afternoon, all.
Your name?
My name is Mr. Chidi Unduku.
Yes, your response to the question.
Okay. Please, regarding the appointment of INEC chairman, I would like a position where it will be advertised.
And people
then
filing applications.
The people will now respond to that advertisement. Then, after, then a panel will be set up to do the selection.
Thank you.
Then another thing.
No, one.
In direct primary for the political parties as against indirect, because somebody will use money to buy.
We understand
all
that.
the
Okay,
delegates.
you have said direct as against indirect primaries. Yes, the lady is sitting next to him. Please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Blessing Amajama. Well, one of the reforms I would like to see, particularly, is about building curiosity in the mind of the secondary school students. Because most of the time, I'm not encouraging undervoting, please. Most of the time, when they are in 18, 17, and these people are not well orientated about their voters' rights, social study is not doing enough, they need to be well orientated so that when they come 17, 18, they will be very sure of their rights and responsibility as well as election processes.
Thank you very much. Please pick the microphone from hand. Bring it over here. I'll come to you. Don't worry, sirs. Please, just bear with me. Come here. On the front row, we have 3 hands. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Good afternoon. My name is Honorable Emeka Lewis.
What is the one reform that you would like to see in our electoral process going forward?
One of the reforms I would like to see is the area of electoral cost For example, I'm a former House of Assembly aspirant. And the cost, we say citizens have the right to contest. Now, if someone is willing to contest and serve, and he cannot fund even just mere party nomination form, then there's no sincerity in it. Let's manage the cost effect of electoral process, both at the party and at INEC level.
Thank you very much. Pass it to the next person. I'll come to you. Those of you at the back, just be patient
Good
with
afternoon.
me.
My name is Ogi Chukwuze. I'm from Imo State. I think INEC must not wait for candidates and political parties to protest, to show the whole world that INEC is denying them CTC of the result they announced. I want the electoral reform to capture maybe 3 days, 4 days after the result is announced. INEC should make available all the necessary documents for candidates and political parties to proceed to court.
Thank you. Pass it to the next person.
Good
We'll come back to you, sir.
My name is Josephine Adoko. I work with Action Aid Nigeria. I'd like to see in the reform where it is clearly stated sanctions for perpetrators of electoral crimes, tough sanctions that would curb the impunity at which these people perpetrate these crimes. And I also would like to see the reform clearly written in a very layman term that anybody who picks it up would understand the content in that document. Thank you.
And this very last one.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Lemon Monday. I represent CISLAC. I would like to start by a quote by Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, where he said that societies that succeed are societies that uphold the principles of integrity. Those that don't succeed are doomed to stagnation and catastrophic collapse. So I think it's important that not only INEC, that Nigerians as a whole should reform their hearts and minds. We should reform our hearts and minds in terms of upholding the principles of integrity and principles of sincerity and honesty. That's the only way, because these are universal principles that will bring us the needed
1 minute. 1 minute. We have a few more to go. Please bring the microphone. Give to the man whose hand is up with the phone next to you, and then the man of Beniak. That's my brother and friend. Okay, fine. He picks the next, and then there's a young man waving both hands at the back. Let's take the three there, and then we take three here and take three here, and we move on like that quickly. Please, your name and then go straight to the point. What reforms would you like to see in our electoral process going forward? Quickly, 1 minute.
My name is Ifeanyi Eze, and I work with FIDA Nigeria. The one reform I want to see is an inclusive quota system that involves the persons with disabilities, gender, that's women, participation in politics, and the youth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The man on the second row.
Good afternoon. My name is Benny Alk. I work with Channels Television. All elections petition to be concluded before swearing in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The young man at the rear. Please, we'll take it in batches and segments. So go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Honorable Dufowa Joshua. I'm from Jebun North Local Government of Ogun State. And what are we actually try to bring in is that the Electoral Reform Committee should try as much as possible even to scrutinize the INEC itself so that they can be able to actually give us a very sounding and a justifiable result at the end of the day. And secondly, the youth should be given priority in all the ways because the way we are being treated is uncalled for.
Thank you.
So please, thank you.
1 minute. Response, one sentence will just do. Please bring the mic. I like to be very gender sensitive. The lady with a heart.
Thank you very much. You're very sweet. My name is Madam Capital. That's my political name because, I don't want to show you my face yet. But I would love for them to scrap, the paper voting. I think there's a lot of, very bad indiscrepancies with that. If we can use like thumb print in the US, I can give you like your system in the US where you print your name shows on paper, you vote for your candidate, and it goes straight into the, the cloud, the server, the file. So we've completely eliminated voter buying, and we've completely eliminated rigging or, ballot snatching. I don't know if you get what I mean. So you vote your thumb, you print,
That's
it
right.
shows your name, you vote
We
what
understand
you want,
that.
you go straight to the party.
We
Thank you very
understand
much.
that. That's still electronic voting. No, give it back to him. Thank you very much. I appreciate. Okay, the man in blue.
Thank you. My name is...
And 3.
My name is Cletus Emochiagada. I was a returning award coalition agent in the last election. And one reform I would love to see is to stop the use of NYC as ad hoc staff. We've overemphasized the selection of chairmen and recs and all of that, but we must have discovered that the youth corps members who does this job, they are most of the time not competent to do it. And if we want to build a database, we must also build a database of electoral officers, people who are competent, and with time, experience counts. So that people that does the election this year...
1 minute, sir. 1 minute. There won't be the need for you to explain that point when it is raised. You know why? Because the men who are already taking notes are here. The chairman of a committee on electoral reforms. Please give to that man next to you, and then move to the man in the beige-colored kaftan.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Mr. Darlington Clifford, and I'm with Yali. One thing we will neglect to understand is that our ballot paper doesn't give us the right to vote. It compels us to vote. Just because I want to vote for a presidential candidate that meets my standard doesn't mean I see a Senate candidate that also meets my standard. I believe there should be a new vote on the ballot paper, which gives me the right to vote that new. I don't see any person here credible enough to represent me. It has been done before in my university days when I was a Senate president, and it's working to date. If 40% of those new votes happens, that means there should be a cancellation of all the candidates and a new candidate should emerge. They are representing us, not the other way around.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Please pick the mic and give it to the man in the beige-colored keftan, please. Please, we are bringing this to a close very quickly.
Thank you very much. My name is Itoro Alfredekbe. I want to make a submission as a
You are not the one I invited to speak.
A supervisory returning officer in the last election. I want to say that the process of determining the ad hoc staffs for the election is very, very poor. The whole setting is marred by a lot of irregularities. Those who are competent are not given the opportunity to do the job, and a lot of politicians tend to infiltrate. They buy.
Taking more than 1 minute.
They pay money to the EOs to give them who they want. And secondly,
sir, you
there's
are given
an
only
absence
1
of
minute,
medical
sir.
personnel in the.
This is not nice. So many hands are up and you want to take 2. Please, that's the man I actually asked you to give the mic to. Please.
Good afternoon all. I am Alaji Nasur Aliru. I am from Young Aspirant Forum. I expect to see that a politician will be banned from moving from one party to another because this brings about insincerity, most especially before anything about
Thank you
election.
very much. Thank you. Please bring the microphone this way. Thank you. I'm taking just 2 here and we close. 2. And this 2 is you with the red cap and the lady with the white. The rest of us kindly bear. We have a mechanism through which you're going to be able to send in your contributions. I'm sorry about that. We can't take everyone. Just bear with me. Please, go ahead.
My name is Apweke Francis Okoye, APC member. Please, I am suggesting that we ban university professors from becoming returning officers, as well as discard this idea of after declaration, no other person can obtain it except the tribunal or court. We should give such powers to INEC.
Thank you very much. Please give it to the lady behind you. And madam will be the last contributor.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Juma Yunus. I would love to see a reform that will combine all election to one day to reduce voters' fatigue and also reduce influence of presidential
Thank
election.
you very much. Please pick the microphone back from her. Thank you very much. We appreciate your contributions. Not everyone here can speak. There's an activist here Kevin Zeremo, who would like to contribute, but of course I've not given him the floor. I understand, sir. We can't take every one of us is a politician or not a politician, but we all have the interest. Please kindly bear with us. This is the time we have on our hands. I'd like to quickly invite the... Would yield the floor very quickly to the man on this side, Honorable Fred Egbedi. You'd like to make some contribution very briefly.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Agbedi Yechairman Frederick is my name. I represent Sakboma Kirimo Federal Constituency. It's Uncle, I'm from Bayelsa State, and I'm a ranking member of this committee, so I have institutional knowledge. Please, I want to urge us, for those of us who have been participating in this process, you know the battles that we have fought over time. The next battle begins now. It's not just these presentations. The battle to compel us, politicians, to do the right thing begins now. And so please, put on your aprons and be ready to drive this process in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, at night, until we get it right for Nigeria. Thank you, and God bless all of us.
Thank you very much. Let me then very quickly invite first the Chairman, House Committee on Electoral Reforms, to please make his closing remarks, and after which would also invite his Senate counterpart, who also doubles as the Chairman of the Joint Committee. Honorable, yes, you can come to the podium, sir, for the cameras. Can we please welcome him very quickly as he comes to speak to us, by way of giving us his closing remarks.
Well, good afternoon once again, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, it's been a long day. And I'm very happy for the questions, remarks, comments made by every one of us here. Yes, this is the beginning of a process. And we are just testing the waters. So if you do have opportunity to ask your question today, we have the website. You can still send it in. We're going to compile all these memos together and your questions, your remarks, to actually form opinion on what we are going to make an amendments. And in some few areas, I just want to let you know that even some of these issues you've raised there are already being considered by the House. And we can't do it on our own. And that's the essence of having this town hall meeting. And I want to let you know that by the time we have the next one, our intention is to move it to all the geopolitical zones. And in the next edition, we will not even be using an hotel like this. We want a real town hall. We are traditional rulers, local government representatives, the unions, various CSOs, and everybody, all stakeholders will be there, because one major issues that is happening is even we ourselves, everybody needs to be educated. It's not just for us to have the best law. It's implementation of the law. It's the perception of the law that really matters. Even when we have the good laws, up to today, the issue of 25% in Abuja is still an issue. Something that has been decided on by the Supreme Court in previous elections. And I just want to let us know that we don't bring emotions into law. The law is sacrosanct. And every one of us must know that even before we even criticize something, how many of us have even read the current Electoral Act? How many of us even know the provisions that we have in the Electoral Act? Many of us will come with a position that are already in the Electoral Act. So it is for us, after leaving this place today, pick up a copy of the Electoral Act, go online, Google it. You will see it. It's on the website. Google it, make a copy, sit down, digest it, and now make informed decisions. So that by the time we are meeting again, we'll all be coming up with position paper that we know will make a difference in the amendments. So we have taken note of most of the things you've said. And there's one I want to just make comment on. Someone said we should use the 50+1% as done. That's what is done in Liberia. And I'm sure if you go that route, we must be ready for a run. Because in a situation where you have 20, 30 candidates in a party, to even get 5% or 25% by any political party will be very, very difficult. And when we talk about diaspora voting, I want to let us know that diaspora is not just about America and UK. Diaspora is about all other African states. And we must be ready to ensure that we have voters points, INEC officers, and party agents in all embassies in the world. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, House Committee on Electoral Matters. Very quickly, we recognize your presence, Honorable Alex Egbona, PhD, Chairman, House Committee on Specialty Healthcare. We'd like to welcome you. Please, a warm round of applause for him. Let me quickly remind us, just as before I invite the Senate Committee Chairman, hello, one house, please. I'd like to just mention that there is, if you were here, pencil down for presentation and you were not invited, your presentation can be uploaded on a website that will be given in the course of the response by the committee chairman. You have a website where your questions your responses to the question on the electoral reform that you'd like to see going forward in Nigeria in our electoral process can be sent to, and response will be given to you almost instantly. So that won't be a problem. And of course, Phoebe Jennifer Jege Daniels, whatever question you have can also come on the website. Let me invite the Chairman, Senate Committee on Electoral Reforms, Distinguished Senator Sharafuddin Ali, to please come forward and respond and also give his closing remarks. Please, a warm round of applause for him.
Distinguished Nigerians, I must thank you for your patience since this program started a few hours ago. In making my closing remarks, I want us to realize that 2023 elections have not been concluded. Have not been concluded. You are surprised. That's a fact. In the Electoral Act, when elections are over, there are processes for adjudication. And that was why we were advising the other time that some of our comments should not relate to matters that are in court. Some matters will be concluded, will be decided at the Supreme Court, especially the gubernatorial ones. I know as a fact that most of the National Assembly and State Assembly matters are being concluded because they terminate at the Court of Appeal. But for others, so that's why I said it's not over. Because until when we are able to see, like Prof said, the interpretation by the judiciary, we will not really be able to see what that provision actually means. If that interpretation is not in consonance with what Nigerians will think, then we'll not be able to go back and redraft and let it be clearer to our people. Like most of us are saying that some of the provisions are ambiguous. But there's no doubt about the fact that the Electoral Act 2022, like has been said by Professor Jega, is the best so far that we have had. But in implementation, and when the executive director of YAG Africa was talking the other time, he spoke about the attitude of Nigerians, attitude of political class. He said that. I would have wanted him to say attitude of Nigerians. The political class are part of you. They are a section, they are a reflection of what the Nigerian society is. Recently we were in Liberia, Kotsi Yaga Africa. We were in Liberia, and you will see, in Nigeria, immediately after elections, we don't give the security any problem over there. Here, we all want to wait and see that elections are counted in our presence. We want to follow the vehicle, several vehicles will now follow to get to the collation center. Over there, people just voted and went to their houses. Questions were asked. Why are you going home? He said, we have an agent there. Are you sure? It can't be compromised. Can we say that about Nigerians? Are our agents not part of us? So these are things that we all must think about and see ways. These are not things that we can put in the law. It is the attitude of Nigerians. We must reorientate ourselves. It is not just about National Heritage Agency or Ministry of Information. We must reorientate ourselves. And aligning myself with the Chairman House Committee, if we are asking for, let us think that Nigeria, we must realize that Nigeria is not like very many of the other African countries, where the election is 50+1. The majority is 50+1. Even where it was 50+1 in Liberia, the first person got 43.8, the second got 43.6, 4.4. And they had to go for a runoff. At the end of the day, it was still 40-something% each of them had. And there were 20 political parties. The same thing is in Nigeria. Some parties do not get as much as 1-2%. But the size of this country, the spread formula seems to be working for us. Because we are talking just about the issue of majority. Areas where we have more votes, you'll be surprised that they'll bring more votes, they'll have less number, and we're going to have somebody who is actually not representative of the Nigerians. These are some of the things that I also think we should also consider and come up with the issue of having to conclude the elections, the disputes before the swearing-in are things that we are also considering. We're also considering the issue of concluding pre-election matters before the election itself. Because nobody spoke about that. Because we have now that we still have some pre-election matters that are not going to the Supreme Court. And the law is that election itself, the election petitions itself, ends at the Court of Appeal. Whereas election petitions get up to the Supreme Court. These are things that we all must look at and consider. And we have started early and decided to involve all Nigerians because we want to have a law that will speak the mind of Nigerians. So I thank you all for your patience, and for anybody who wants to send in anything, we have a mail that is used by the Joint Committee. It is inexstatecommittee@gmail.com. You can send in our things into there so that the committee, inexstatecommittee@gmail.com. For now, that is what we are using. We are going to upgrade to a website. Like the chairman of the House said, we are still going around the country. It is work in progress. And like the honorable member said, it is all our job, not for the Senate or the House or the executive alone. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And so for those of you who would have questions or comments or response to the question asked as to what reform you'd like to see, you can send your responses to the email address INEC, all in small letters, INEC Senate Committee @gmail.com. We thank you very much for your participation and hoping that when we leave here, the reforms that we are expecting will come a lot even better and for the betterment of all of us in Nigeria. This brings us to the end of this program and would like to appreciate all of you for your wonderful contributions. We pray for Nigeria continuously that things will get even better. May we please rise at this point for the national anthem to bring this to a close. On behalf of the organizers of this event, my name is Andy Gabriel, and I wish you a very pleasant, eventful day ahead of you. National anthem, please. God bless Yega Africa. God bless the Senate. God bless the House of Representatives. God bless you all and God bless Nigeria. Thank you.